Welcome to Leaders Arise with Joyful Julie. Join us as we explore life-changing, freedom-releasing biblical truths to empower leaders and patriots to reach their full potential, cancel out fraudulent beliefs, and increase in influence and financial success. Let's get started. Hi, Leaders Arise Tribe. It's my favorite time of the week again. I'm so thankful that you're listening today or watching online. So today is kind of going to be a different kind of program. I received a message online from someone, and it says, "I love your podcast. They get me through some of my tough days. Keep up the good work." Well, I want to thank you all for listening because you're the reason that I spend time in front of the camera, time editing, time posting, so that we can bring the light of Jesus Christ into the darkness, so that we can make a difference in people's lives. And so I just want to say thank you, and you matter. So today's podcast is going to be entitled Integrity Matters. We see the breakdown of our values and increasingly of our families every day. And as I think about it, we see this pattern often in Scripture. When the nation of Israel entered into prosperity, many times the next king was a bad king, because the bad king became self-absorbed. The bad king went away from the Lord, from valuing truth and integrity, lack of discipline. And as the king became more self-absorbed, the nation declined. Well, as a Christian, I always want to believe the best about people. I want to believe the best about situations. As a motivational speaker, I bring hope when others are discouraged, to try to lift them up, because it says, without vision in the Bible, my people perish. And so without hope, it's very hard to have vision. But, and this is a huge but, that does not mean that we ignore lack of integrity. That does not mean that we ignore lying. That does not mean that we ignore agreement with ungodly behaviors, or that we ignore plain out manipulation. As a child, I experienced betrayal. And that taught me something, that not every person in leadership or authority could be trusted. There were some that could, but there were many that couldn't. As a business owner, in my 25 years, I experienced betrayal of people not keeping their word as customers. We experienced a huge betrayal of an employee not keeping their word and trashing our reputation in the community. But I had to learn how to walk in forgiveness so that they didn't impact my gift and my love for people. But I also experienced betrayal as a member of a church. And as my level of betrayal seemed to increase, God began to teach me not only about forgiveness, but about setting boundaries and about being wise. Because we are to judge not other people. We can't tell what their heart is. We can't tell whether they're going to heaven or not. But we can judge the fruit of their life. We can judge whether someone tells the truth. We can judge whether the outcome of their behavior, their own behavior, is fruitful. Unfortunately, sometimes we are connected to people that impact the fruit of our life because we're connected to them. And we also have ownership of that as well. We do determine who we're in relationship with. But I began to realize that one of the main strategies of the enemy is to lie, steal, destroy people. Lie, steal, destroy people over and over and over. And so I wrote a blog on my website called The Big Lie. And it was to help people realize that we're responsible for discerning the quality of the leadership that we follow and the quality of leadership that we portray ourselves. And we need to not be taken in by Jezebel spirits, by manipulating spirits, by codependent spirits, by violent spirits, because God means for us to live an abundant life. But unfortunately, when we ignore those sorts of things, then we end up in a terrible situation where we become captives because we have ignored our responsibility of discerning. As a Christian, we are not to hide from the darkness, but we are the ones being sent into the darkness as salt and light. Salt purifies, and light exposes what is hidden in the darkness. So today, one of the listeners of our program communicated on one of my posts that on your last podcast, you mentioned some places that I could get additional information. Could you please do a program on this? Well, today's program has a little bit to do with the rest of the story, because there are things that are being kept from the American public. There are incredible evil injustices that many people do not know about because they refuse to actually look for the truth. In the Bible, it says that the truth shall set you free. And that's talking about the truth of Jesus Christ. But we have to search out Jesus Christ. And the enemy tries to keep us from finding that truth. Well, the same thing is true in our world, in our schools, in the media, in entertainment, in our government, in businesses. There are forces that are trying to make you captive for generations, to make us captive for generations. And so I'm here to offer you today, as this listener asked for, some suggestions of places that you can go to begin to search out more truth. Because I believe as Americans that we have freedom of the press. And in freedom of the press, we should be able to hear both sides of the story and then decide for ourselves. And I can tell you that as someone who used to believe that the mainstream media was telling me the truth, I now know that they are not telling the whole truth. And I had to go onto alternative sources to find alternative voices that were telling me things that could save my life, that could save my family, and that can save our country. So I took a resource that I received and I saved it and I put it on my website. And so if you go to newlifefortoday.com, that's the name of my nonprofit, newlifefortoday.com, and you'll see a tab when you go onto the main page that says PR for Public Relations /friends. As you scroll down on this page, you'll find endorsements and radio interviews. You'll find a link, a section, if you continue scrolling down, of links to helpful places. And one of the last items on that page will be something called resources. In that resource document, it will indicate social media and news programs that you can begin to search out and learn for yourself the rest of the story. Because I truly believe that the enemy wants to kill us. He wants to destroy us. And there are people that are serving in his kingdom that do not have our best welfare in mind. I believe that I vote pro-life because it is clear in the Bible that God is pro-life. I also believe in that we were created with certain unalienable rights, which is where our Bill of Rights came from. And those came from God. And there are people who are trying to take our unalienable rights away from us. They are trying to censor our freedom of the press. Do you know that there are pastors being arrested for talking about homosexuality? Do you know that there are people who are being arrested just for protesting and praying outside of an abortion clinic? They are being arrested for expressing their rights as American citizens. It goes even farther. There are people who are being thrown out of classrooms. Students are being censored just because they have a conservative viewpoint, and the school system that they're in doesn't like it. So some of you may be saying today, what is on this PR/Friends resources handout? Well, if you go to newlifefortoday.com and go and download this document, it will tell you some of the places that you can go on social media. You can go on Truth Social. You may have heard about it. I'll give you the link right in the document. You may have heard of an application called Gettr. This is a social media site where many conservative voices are expressing things that they have been banned from expressing on other liberal social media platforms. You can go hear their voices for free. One of my favorite sites is called Rumble. If you go to rumble.com, you will be able to see videos that are censored at places like YouTube. The information on many of the Rumble sites are wonderful. And another place that you can go is a place called Telegram. And this is kind of like Facebook Messenger, but Telegram is a place where you can safely create small groups so that you can communicate with people. And there are also wonderful groups on there that you can join, and it's like a free news feed. And they will give you, according to this particular voice, like Naomi Wolf, they will give you links to stories and videos from all over the internet so that you can explore for yourself and find the truth. A great news site that is actually telling the other side of the story is called the Gateway Pundit. If you go to thegatewaypundit.com, you will find a list of news stories daily that will be presented that are banned on other news sites because they are not from a liberal point of view. One of my favorite resources is a new TV station called Real America's Voice. If you go on America's Voice, americasvoice.news, you can sign up. It's free. And each of these channels are people who are literally risking their lives to bring you TV programs with guests, with opinion programs, with voices like Lance Wallnau that will be able to begin to educate you on how Marxism is actually trying to take over our country. There's another TV station called Frank Speech. And there's a lovely program that I love to watch on Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday nights called Flashpoint. Flashpoint is also available to watch on Rumble, but I go to govictory.com and it's listed as one of their programs and you can watch free online. There are other resources listed in the document from conservative voices like Charlie Kirk, a wonderful, younger, energetic media content creator that totally, when I found him, I was like, where did he come from? It turns out that he's been doing this over 10 years, going on to college and high school campuses to begin to communicate in a positive way conservative thought and conservative principles and policies. There's also conservative voices like War Room, Dutch Sheets, and Eric Metaxas. There are also multiple educational resources concerning election integrity and prophetic places like Elijah Streams. So I encourage each of you today. It would be too hard for me to spell out each and every resource and the link to go there. So I encourage you to go to newlifefortoday.com and go to the PR/friends page and just scroll down, and at the bottom, you'll see a list of my favorite friends, websites, and this document. You can download the document for free. Now, I do hope that you will consider making a gift to New Life for Today to help keep the Leaders Arise podcast going, to help us spread the word about conservative voices and conservative messages to bring the light into the darkness. Because the Lord commanded us to go ye into all the world, making disciples. That's what we do on Leaders Arise. It's not just fluff, it's actually deep biblical teaching to prepare people from every walk of life and every level of maturity in Christ to go out and to be salt and light in these challenging days. And we're going to have to grow up. We're going to have to walk in maturity. And part of growing up is actually learning about what is true and what is not. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Leaders Arise. I hope and pray that it has blessed you and that you will like the episode, that you will follow the podcast, that you will follow the channel on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music and Spotify and wherever you're listening. And I do hope and pray that you will share so that you can help be a force multiplier to bring the light of Jesus Christ and the principles out of the Word into the lives of those you love and care about, who desperately need help in these challenging days. Thanks so much for listening, and bye-bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of Leaders Arise. For more information about my newsletter, speaking events, and coaching services, see newlifefortoday.com.